Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
All right, greetings and welcome to Live Talk. I'm your host, Arthur Jeremiah, alongside my co-host, the minister, Samuel.
Welcome back to Live Talk.
Yes. Season 5, episode 2. Oh man, we're moving right along. Before we get into anything, let's go to our general statement and our disclaimer. General statement. Live Talk is proudly powered by TBS Goodwill, Builders of the Highway Foundation, and Men of Purpose. Together, we're bringing about awareness to the everyday challenges facing individuals, communities, and our nation. We tell our stories, listen to yours, and always respect different perspectives. Want to share your voice? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com to be a guest, or if you would like to contribute to our mission, purpose, go to livetalkorl.com to give a donation. Disclaimer. Information provided during this event and others to come does not constitute the official opinion of Live Talk or its affiliate entities. It is strongly recommended that viewers seek independent expert advice regarding any topics discussed, as legal requirements differ significantly across jurisdictions and are subject to frequent changes. If you have questions or concerns, you can always email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Facebook and or Instagram at Live Talk Orlando. All right. We had to get that out of the way, like always. Oh, Minister, happy Sunday, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Great Sunday. Great, shall we say, based on where we are, beginning of the week, end of the week, but it's all good.
Yes, sir. Indeed. You know, it's always a blissful moment when we get the opportunity to come on the call and be able to speak to our audience about information that we feel that's relevant to our community. So it's always good to be in this moment. But before we get into anything, let's just give the audience a rundown of the show today. First, we'll have the minister word of today or quote. Shortly after that, right after that, we'll go to a short commercial break, and then we'll come back with our main topic. And our topic today is navigating the new landscape of education in Florida, understanding recent legislative changes. And now this is part 2 because we did part 1 in the prior show. So this is part 2. Right after that, we'll go to another commercial break, and then we'll come back with some world news, if you will. Just something that we may touch on. And then after that, we'll get ready to close out. May have a motivational quote from the host. But that's your lineup for today. So with no further ado, Minister, what is the quote or word of today?
Okay, yeah, because we're doing this as a continuation from a previous show, we're going to go back with the word of the day, which was teaching or teacher, and with a quote. But basically, as a recap, teaching is the process of attending to people's needs, experiences, and feelings, and making specific interventions to help them learn. And a few synonyms of that were to educate, instruct, tutor, school, train, coach, and enlighten. So we actually had a quote on teaching, because as a good teacher, a quote is that a good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. And then I wanted to mention this other quote on teaching, or from teaching, is specifically in our community and kind of where we are, because we're talking about education. It says, if someone is going down the road, he doesn't need motivation to speed him up. What he needs is education to turn him around. And I think that's very relevant with where we are, especially talking about these laws here in Florida and us as a community.
No, indeed. Because the information that we're going to be sharing today, it just aligns with that. And we just have to understand what a true teacher is, because sometimes people can be instructed by giving information and conveying that information to others, but the information coming from someone else. So you although you're teaching it, but you're teaching somebody else's, I guess, philosophy, if you will. But then there's a scope of information or learning that has to be taught to the people that sometimes, because of the powers that be, they create these systems that restricts this information from being shared with others. So we're gonna get a lot into this today, and thank you, Minister, for that word of today. And we're gonna go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
What do all these people have in common besides a beautiful smile, healthy teeth, and gums? They all use Zodi toothpaste. Zodi toothpaste is made with all natural ingredients. Zodi toothpaste is fortified with moringa and baking soda. Zodi toothpaste is suds-free, making it an excellent choice for kids. All natural, fortified, and suds-free. Get yours today at noystore.com.
All right, and welcome back. Like mentioned before, this is the part where we get deep into our main topic of today. And pretty much we're following up on a prior show that we talked about the different laws that affect the education system in Florida. We were not able to cover all of them, so we want to come back on this show to get a close look at these laws and the laws that passed July the 1st. So, and many of these laws we looked at the ones that pertain mostly to education, because the road that we was on and that we are on, we are looking to have a trade show soon. So we want to kind of keep everything centered around education. And so in part one of navigating the new landscape of education in Florida, understanding recent legislative changes, we covered a Senate bill, SB 1264, which was, we covered the Senate bill 1264. We also covered HB 931 and 7032. Now, SB 1264 kind of addressed the history of communism as a required instruction in the public school system. HB 931, it authorized school districts to allow volunteer school chaplains, and then 7032 provides tuition and fee waivers for high school dropouts who pursue diplomas and workforce credentials at state colleges. So we kind of covered those laws. If you want to go back to part one of that show, matter of fact, it was season 4, episode 10. So if you want to go back to that, you can review that one. But today we're going to cover HB 1291, HB 21, and SB 7002. Before we go into that, Minister, is anything you just kind of want to come from the last one as we get into this here?
They directly affect us.
Right.
They directly or indirectly affect you, specifically if you live in here in Florida. So whether you're conscious of them or not, they can affect you, and they can affect you in a positive manner. They can affect you in a negative manner. So it's one of those things you have to be prepared and conscious of what's going on around you.
Right. All right. It's and this platform was kind of designed for that, you know, to bring information like that to our community, so that we are conscious and aware of some of the new laws, because, you know, we can't say this enough. Ignorance of a law don't excuse you.
Exactly.
You know, just because you don't know about it don't mean that, okay, you finna go to court in front of a judge and say like, hey, I didn't know anything about that. Then you just need to become a little bit more conscious of what's going on. so we just try to make sure that, you know, information like that is brought to the forefront. That's what this platform is all about, you know, touching base with our community, bringing different information, and then kind of building off of that. That's why we're having a trade show that's coming up, you know, that's going to be beneficial to our youth and to those that may not have, decided on what they want to do in life. You know, it's some 30-year-olds out there, minister, that may not have decided on what they want to do. So a trade show would probably be a good opportunity to come in face to face with those that are in the industry, you know, just to get some, you know, heads up on what to expect.
Yeah, because it's real life experience. Like you going to a job fair today. These are people who are doing this today. They're actually doing it tomorrow. So it's an opportunity for things that you can actually do today. And like you say, you could be a 30-year-old and you done wandered a little bit into this,
right?
Staggered a little bit into that. But here's the opportunity for you to actually get some direction.
Right. And that's important. You know, we feel like it's very important to our youth in our community, and just anybody, man. Just we want to bring information that can better our community. So just kind of getting into these laws. HB 1291. So the main objective of this law is to regulate the content taught in teacher preparation programs, post-secondary educator preparation institutions, and related certification programs in Florida. Now, I'm gonna stop there because I said a lot, and one may not have really picked up on what I said. And one of the things that I mentioned here was post-secondary educator preparation institutes. Now, just to give you a little information on that, like post-secondary educator preparation institutes are programs typically offered by college and universities to provide training and certification for individuals seeking to become educators. These institutes cater to those who already have a bachelor's degree in a field other than education and want to transition into teaching. So when we look at these programs, like secondary educator programs or preparation programs, what are we looking at, minister? Like when people are trying to become a part of, you know, these universities or institutions to bring forth information to post-secondary students, what type of information we talking about bringing to the forefront that may not have been shared in high school?
And that's the good point, because you talk about beyond high school, and in most cases it is those that they're really now trying to reach a more of a life application, or it kind of goes beyond the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. But it's like, okay, now that you've left school, the application or the higher thought of the reading, writing, and arithmetic, or how does that begin to affect how you live, how you work, how you make your place in society.
Right. Yeah, because when you look at it, you know, as we live, we learn. We know, you and I both know that there's a lot of things that we learned after school that wasn't taught in school. And a lot of that stuff was relevant to us. Right. It was relevant to our identity as a Black man. And none of these things are taught in our school system. And in a particular law like this here, it's looking to restrict educators from bringing in information like that can be shared with individuals that they may not have picked up in high school. And it's supposed to be a way for them to differentiate between, you come to a certain stage if you're bringing information to post-secondary students, you would think in your mind that they have matured to a point that they can receive information.
Yes.
You wouldn't think to restrict information from them. You would think most so to make that information free and accessible to them. So it just make me think about when the government becomes a part of, making some of these changes, this become a political thing opposed to,
as opposed to educational.
Right.
Like, see, for example, this is, if you take in civics, and civics is a great course. You should take that, should be getting that in high school. And it should teach you about the way politics work in this country. But then the broader implication of, okay, we know you're supposed to, is from a basic standpoint, the representatives are supposed to be representatives of the people. So you're supposed to represent the people from your district or from your state. And then you go to pass laws and legislation to basically improve where they come from. If there's issues, you want to try to fix them.
Right.
If there's things working well, you want to keep those in place and continue them. But when you start talking about these higher levels, which it may not be taught in the schools directly, that voting is a right. Yet, at one point, voting in this country was not afforded to all. It would, Black people did not always have a right to vote.
Right.
Women did not always have the right to vote.
That's true too.
These are just facts.
Yeah.
And in a system where certain people weren't voting, that system had reasons for that. So now, when you start getting to a high level and you understand it, now you kind of talk about, okay, why were women not having the right to vote? Or why did people of color not have the right to vote? Okay, now this is a conversation, and this should go beyond the basics of high school education. But for students who now want to consider how they move forward, this is something that you really have to be able to consider.
Right.
Especially now when we do have situations to when you do redistricting. And what that does is it can cause your vote to be minimized if you kind of redistrict out or you group a certain people in where they don't need to be. They really losing their ability to vote. And it might not say that directly, but that's the actual effect.
That's what's happening. Yeah. No, that's and see that goes back to knowledge being power. And as we get that knowledge and gain that power, then now we can apply that information to our lives to better our communities, better our lives first and then our community. But we have to be able to get that information, that knowledge. And then if you deem, based off of, some of these laws, if you deem that kind of distorting, because it kind of says one of the restrictions on curriculums, they say prohibits educator provided courses from distorting significant historical events or promoting concepts like critical race theory.
Yes.
But see, you want to, what's the definition? Like, they ain't put the definition of distorting. And I'm not a lawyer, but you got a lot of lawmakers who put this in here where you say you may not distort significant historical events, but you're distorting it based on someone's opinion. Right. Because a significant historical event would be slavery. Right. That's a fact. But the way you have worded it in this bill, you don't want that
to be talked about. But you're saying you can't distort significant historical events, and then you put teaching identity politics, which is like I'm a little confused on how you can say the first thing and then you transition it over to the next with identity politics. So you're basically like critical race theory. You don't want that to be talked about.
Right.
But that's a real thing.
It is.
That's very real.
Right.
But you don't want that to be talked about, and you now put it in a law. And see, this is the question. They're saying it can't be talked about in high school, but are they going to even push this to try to go in the colleges? Because now you get teachers who fear of losing their jobs, don't want to talk about the truth.
Yeah, but how you get students to think? When you're on that type of level, you're building the student at that time to become something separate from, to become his or her own, thinker or person, if you will, because perspective is everything. And I think the issue is, I'm a big, proponent now of being able to receive, or not just receive, but just to hear different perspectives. And I think when you come to that level of learning, that post-secondary level of learning, that's when a lot of those perspectives comes into play when it comes to a lot of historical events, if you will. And it affects people in many different ways. And it allows for people to make certain changes in their life or in their political life that can make a difference, to other people, to yourself first and foremost, but to other people as well, that you don't leave those people out.
And you may not distort significant historical events or include a curriculum or instruction that teaches identity politics that violates Section 1005 or is based on theories that systemic racism, sexism, oppression, and privileges are inherent in the institution of the United States and were created to maintain social, political, and economic inequalities. You just took directly wording from critical race theory and said you can't teach it, but that's the facts. But you're distorting the history, but you're writing into it that you can't do it, but you're saying you can't teach about it.
Right. Because it goes on, it said required content, and I'm gonna see how this relates to it. It said, okay, so it says stipulates that programs must afford candidates opportunities to think critically. Now, let's stop there, critically. So if you if the program affords the candidate, whomever it is, to the opportunity to think critically, and it goes on to say master economic content and learn instructional strategies. So even when you bring up critical race theory and the strategies behind trying to break down this systematic racist system, it ain't about because even critical race theory ain't about pointing a finger at somebody or blaming somebody. It's about understanding what's happening.
Yes.
And identifying what's happening, and then saying, okay, how we're going to change this.
How we fix it.
Yeah, how we fix this here. I think, some of them that's sitting at the table, and I'm gonna highlight some of them real fast, yeah. Minister.
And go ahead, because it's like, this is critical thinking, and you want them to do critical thinking. It's basic knowledge that if you have someone like today, you have to pay someone a wage in order for them to work.
Right.
We even have minimum wage standards. Okay. But imagine when you don't have to pay someone a wage, they work for free. So now you're making a profit if you can work that person for a day.
Right.
But now imagine if you can work that person all year and not pay them. We go do some critical thinking. Now, consider when you have slavery and you got a whole race of people working for free for 300 years. You don't see why America would have been so far ahead, because you were able to use 300 years of free slave labor.
Right.
Which is how you got to where you are. This is a great country. However, those who were building it, do you really think that the slave master was trying to do anything to benefit the slave?
No.
The system was designed, and that's the same system we living in now.
Right.
Now, so if you don't correct inequities in the system, then it's going to continue the way that it was,
right,
or is.
Right. When you think about, and I am going to show, I'm going to put that back on the screen. I'm going to put that committee back on the screen, and then I'm going to go into, what we should and need to be doing. Just a little background on the content, like HB 1291, which is part of a broader trend of legislation in various states seeking to limit discussions of race, gender, and systematic inequalities in classrooms. Now, this technically what the bill is doing. Supporters of this bill argue that it promotes objectivity and prevents indoctrination of students with certain viewpoints.
Yes.
And then it goes on to say, like, and it's just giving both sides. Critics contend that it restricts academic freedom, which it does, hinders discussion of important social issues, which that's what we're talking about, and could lead to a incomplete education. And I really do think it can lead to incomplete education, because if you and remember, we're talking about post-secondary. Like, we ain't even talking about grade school, or high school. Yeah, we're talking about post-secondary education. So these are adults.
University.
Yeah,
colleges and universities.
Right. So it's like you stretching, you reaching. But one of the things, and I want to just kind of bring to the forefront this committee. As you can see on the screen, that's the Post-Secondary Education and Workforce Subcommittee. Now, we're looking at the chair, vice chair, and can I see that? Democratic ranking member. All right, so these are, like, if you see up top there, you'll see location, which is in Tallahassee. You'll see phone number, contact. What we have to do, and let me see if I can get the representatives for. Yeah, so these are what we have to be mindful of, audience, is that there are committees that decide on a lot of these laws and changing these laws. Once these committees put them together, they send them to the governor, and the governor signs off on them. But we have representatives from each state that's a part of these committees that we have to voice our concerns to. That's why we talk about local.
All politics is local.
We talk about that because it's very important. They want us to take our eye off the prize, or they want us to drop the ball because they want us to look at national events like the presidential, race. That's fine and dandy. But in order to get true changes and things done, we have to look locally. And a lot of these committees have representatives that are in our state.
And see, that's when you the politics being local. We cannot stress that enough. Because on this show, we believe in the power to vote. You need to vote. If you're not voting, specifically local, when you see these kind of changes, don't say, wow, how did this happen? It's because you're allowing local people to go to Tallahassee and make rules that you don't like.
Right.
because you didn't vote to not have them go there, or you didn't vote to send someone there who would represent you.
Right.
That's said about that. It's basic civics is the representatives are supposed to support you, but it's become a climate of making people not want to vote. And when you do that, those who want to make the changes, they vote.
Right.
So now if you got a large amount of people voting for it and a small amount of people voting against it, they're going to win, even though the majority of the people are against it. But because you did not vote, you sent a smaller majority of the people there to represent you, and now they're not representing you the way that you want to be represented.
Right. And then you just need to know the values. We talked about that too. Like the candidates, you need to know their values and what they believe in, because you can very well have someone that's a representative that's in your state or your state, but at the same time may not have the same values that you have. And it don't matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican. You just need to know that they have your values.
Yep.
And if they have your values, then you got the right person in office. And that's key in our community as well, because the stigma, I would say, is that, vote Democrat and they for black people. It can be, but we always have to evaluate that. So don't get caught up on that, because they'll switch up on you. And now you know that the Republican Party being Democrat and the Democrats go to the Republican Party. And now you right here think you need to be voting Democrat.
Because some of these laws, you get some of them. It's like here. See, sometimes they can get together, and when they take the partisanship out, they can actually do some really good things.
Right.
But when they don't, normally we suffer. Right. And we suffer because we don't vote. We don't make our voice loud enough at the ballot box. See, when you got to go on the street, I hate to say it, but when you got to go on the street corner, hold up a sign and protest, it's a little too late.
Yeah.
Because that's after the fact.
And what you're saying is so true, because think about when they start talking about these laws. Let me see if I can pull this up. But they have a track record. They, what happened in this meeting, what happened in that meeting. Yep. It may go back almost a year, like at least 6 months, where they're talking about it, boom, and then it end up passing, and next thing you know, it's signed into law, which many of the laws are signed into law around July the 1st. And as you can see, over 100 laws were signed into law July the 1st. We just touching on the ones that kind of associated with education. But it's over 100 and some laws that was signed into law.
Some were good. Others, in my opinion, not good. Not so good at all.
Right.
Not so good at all.
Right.
But they're law.
Yeah. They law that. Like you say, you waited too late. Ain't no reason to go out there with a picket sign now trying to change. But we can always, once we become conscious of it, now we can begin to do better. Now we can begin to hold people accountable. Now it becomes serious to say, like, okay, who is our representative? Who is supposed to be going down there and voicing our opinion and what we would like to have in our community? And then you start to make some changes, because now you're going to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in office, and they're just not taking cruises and vacationing all the time, and the people ain't communicating and talking to them, and so that's why we definitely have to become conscious of who our representatives are, because we want to make sure that they are held accountable. But some legal challenges centers around this as well, Minister. It said a bill faces legal challenges with arguments that it violates the First Amendment right to free speech and the 14th Amendment right to equal protection. So I'm interested about that. I don't know if that was something that was brought to the forefront. I know that law was I know it was signed into law. I don't know if that's going to be something that's appealed based off of that, because I would imagine the First Amendment freedom of speech will have to be brought to the forefront, which I mean,
well, and see, I'm trying to find it, but there was one of the district courts who I think held back on part of that law because it is against the First Amendment. It is against because it's going too far.
Right.
It really is going too far, and part of that's going to be in the court. So we got to see, and I'm trying to find it because the current judge just upheld not all of it, but part of it, or held back part of it.
Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting moving forward because I just can't see why the government wants to be so involved when it comes to that part and not considering that these are adults. And, you would think adults can make their own decision and make their own, choices on what information they would like to hold on to and what information they would like to do away with. And you got the choice of classes that you choose as well. And if they teaching a class on critical race theory and I choose to go to that class, that's my choice to go to that class because I want to learn about, critical race theory. If I choose not to go there, then I don't go into that class. So I think that, you have to leave it open to, the choice of the student that's going to the school, because some students may go to a school just because of that reason, because they have these certain programs, so they choose to go to these schools. But yeah, that's interesting. We'll see how that pans
play out. The time to talk about it is in the beginning because you need to find who your lawmakers are, and it's okay to call their office and talk to them. That's what their job is. They're being paid, so it's okay to call them. Even if they're not there, they have their assistant who in their office, and they get them. Trust me, they get the message.
Right.
If you call them, you can get their email. You can email them. Because when it comes to courses such as Black History, it need to be voiced that we want Black History taught, not just in the higher educational, but it should be called in the secondary level.
Oh yeah.
And it definitely should be taught in high school. Black history should be taught. And when I'm talking about Black history, not just we don't have to go back 2,000 years, but in this country, the history need to be taught how it was relevant to how it affected Black people. Because if it can be taught right about this law, that if you saying it's distorting significant facts, you're distorting a significant fact on how slavery did affect a particular group of people.
Yeah.
And that need to be talked about so people can understand the history of, okay, that's where we came from. Here's where we are today.
Right. I mean, people gonna have emotions centered around it, whether it's, Black people gonna have emotions around it, white people gonna have emotions around it. But it's something that we have to deal with. How can you be in the same house and you looking at the elephant in the room, you don't address it?
Exactly.
you have to address that. America is so big on looking outside everywhere else to be a beacon of hope to everyone else. But you don't want to deal with your issues here.
Yes.
You don't you have to deal with your issues, in order for us all to be, engaged into what's going on in this country, in a positive sense, that is. We have to deal with those issues, because otherwise you have a distraught people that's saying like, okay, so you're just going to ignore all this here. Everything that happened to me. Yeah. You're going to give everybody else reparations. You're going to make sure all these people over here get reparations. You're going to make sure Jewish people get reparations. You're going to make sure the Japanese get reparations, which I agree, they need reparation.
Yes.
But you can't overlook reparation for us here in this country.
And the question is why? Because because when you push people so far, now you go get to people go say, well, if there's no justice, there's no peace.
There you go.
See, we can fight for democracy around the globe. We should be able to work on getting democracy here at home. And we want this to be a more perfect union, then let's make it perfect for all people.
Right.
It's like, I don't have a problem with things being good for white people. I think it should be good for white people because they live in this country. But I also think that things should be good for black people because we live in this country as well.
Right.
And there has to be a way where we can make this a perfect union that benefits all, and it's supposed to be fair and equitable.
Right. Because when you look outside, you know, something that Cat Williams had said, the comedian, he said, we gave $100 billion to Ukraine. That's $100 billion
With a B.
with a B. You mean we can't get reparations here in America? Like, black folks should be able to get reparations. Like you just came up with this money. Why can't we get reparations here? Why can't we, be, it's like we went through 400 years of depression, if you will, discrimination. Women was raped, men was raped. It's just so many things that was done to us, that dehumanized us. We come up out of that, and then you come with Jim Crow. It's like you even into this day, you can't even look us in the eye to even tell us you're sorry by giving us some type of reparation. You continue in the same path and overlook all these things. Instituting certain laws like this to restrict people from knowing about this here, as if you just want to brush it up under the rug.
Whitewash.
Whitewash it. So that now people don't like it. Let that be gone. Let's do away with that.
That's why you don't want critical race theory taught, because within the system, there's a certain sect, not all, but there's a certain sect of people in the population who want to whitewash that. And that's why they push it for that reason. And it's not all, but that the few that do it have the power because they put people in positions in government to pass these type laws to keep it moving forward. And now you don't want young educated people to learn about it and talk about it, because now somebody might put it on the table and say, well, why shouldn't we?
Right.
Because it could come in many different forms. I mean, I don't want to humorize it, but if an infusion of money was put like that in the black community, the majority of the money would immediately be spent right back in the white community. So they would get a much bigger benefit than we were. Because if I was to be on the board right now, it'd be, before it get released, we need to have some classes.
Yeah.
And there need to be some education on financial literacy and what to do with your money, because otherwise, it's going to all get given right back.
Yeah. And that's to your point. I mean, because you talk about humor, that's what Cat Williams ended up saying. He's like, now next morning, every black person in America woke up with $20 million in their bank account.
Yep.
And he was like, white people is really going to benefit you.
Big time.
because the thing about it, what you just alluded to, you have different mindsets. The mindset, the first thing, if I had to think about it, the first thing I would think, most black people, and we'll talk about all our people now. So we
can do that though.
But we can't do that.
I can talk like that.
Yeah.
Okay. We got the right.
What we gonna go at? Car dealership. We don't own no car dealership.
I would have to, we'd have to open up us a Cadillac and a Lexus overnight.
Right.
We'd have to open one up overnight.
Because the conscious minds that get it, we're going to be thinking about how can we open up a business? How can we now, how can we
trap that money and keep it in the community?
Within the community. Because our people finna go ham on spending that money. They finna go crazy. How can we get that money and keep it within our community? And if they don't have the right mindset, they probably ain't gonna want to come and deal with our businesses, because, and I hate to say it, because that's just a product of post-slavery.
That's critical. That's the effect.
Right.
300. You said it. 310 years of physical slavery and 400 years of mental slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me when I tell you, there's some PTSD among our people, and part of that, we need healing. We need therapy. Black people, if you don't think you need therapy, wake up and smell the coffee.
Right.
If you went, if any of you have served in the military, especially in these recent wars, PTSD is real.
Mm-hmm.
Do not think after 400 years of mental and physical slavery, you don't have some residual PTSD.
Right. And we definitely need help for it. All right. Well, that's one of those laws. I know we was gonna really get into that one, because I know it touched home, and we're big on. We know a lot of educators that bring a lot of good information into the school systems, and now you're looking at, okay, some of that's gonna be scrutinized, because based off of this change of a law. Now they're going to be looking at it as if, okay, you kind of, distorting maybe what's really true. They're saying you're distorting it, so just for our community, our educators that are putting together programs and things of that nature, let's be mindful of this here. I think it's still up on a watch because of the First Amendment.
Long as you're not distorting the truth,
right?
In history, long as you're not distorting it. Example, and you might need a good attorney when you talk about it, but if we want to talk about Nat Turner, he's a historical figure,
right?
Very, very important historical figure. And we see black and white students should be able to have that conversation about Nat Turner and understand what caused him to do what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was what he did right? He is okay. If we go to war,
mm-hmm.
if we'll go to war and we'll drop bombs on other people,
mm-hmm.
we'll shoot them with bullets and missiles and submarines. Okay, so was Nat Turner wrong for what he did? Of course not. He was doing what was necessary for what he thought was the preservation of his people.
Right.
But now, fast forward to where we are today, we should be able to have an honest conversation and say, what can we do so that should not have to happen?
Right.
Because white people should feel safe, but black people should feel as equally safe.
Right.
So we should be able to have that conversation,
mm-hmm.
because that's the only way that we move past that.
Right.
That's the only, in order to deal with that elephant in the room,
mm-hmm.
and then we can because if we pretend that it doesn't, like if Robert E. Lee, he was a general, but he should be listed as a general, but he was a traitor against the United States.
Sure was. Yeah.
He was a traitor
mm-hmm.
against the Union. We represent America, right?
Yeah.
So this guy went against the United States of America,
mm-hmm.
and they got almost half of the country to go with him and started a civil war. We should remember him in history, but we should remember him as a traitor to the Union.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God that he lost.
Right.
Because history could have been written differently.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good thing that he lost. And we should all be able to agree that it's a good thing that he lost.
Right.
We can understand why he did what he did, but why can't we simply admit he was wrong
mm-hmm.
and now move forward?
Right.
and understand what it means to me as a black man when you want to fly that flag and act. Why would I want to send my children to a school where he's out there as a symbol and a rebel flag was flying? It's like you would never tell a Jewish person to go to a school where there was a statue of Hitler and a Nazi swastika.
Right.
You wouldn't dream of doing that. So why would you think of doing that to us as a people?
Right.
We should be able to have an honest conversation about that to move past it.
Right.
And this is we just talking about history.
Yeah, it was some change. I know as a child coming up, I remember we call it L.I.V.E, Robert Lee School. They not recently. How long ago that was when they made that change?
Thank goodness they changed it.
Yeah. So, but you don't know your history. You go there proudly.
Yep.
You know, not knowing what it represents. And it's not just that, you know, like.
See, I got busted and had to go to that school, and they didn't talk about that out loud.
You said you had to go there?
Yeah, I was forced to go there.
Okay.
I could walk to the school down the street from my house. I was during that time they started busting. I was forced, and I had to go from Howard
to there
to Lee.
Okay. Wow.
Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what you got me coming to a school with a traitor.
Yeah.
He's not no historical hero. He was a traitor.
Yeah.
But nobody was teaching. Now people realize that's what he was.
Now that's what you just mentioned. That I ain't gonna say that's. Well, I'm gonna say that's new to me based off of what you mentioned. But what you're saying is so true because that's actually the definition of it. You know. So I mean that's enlightening.
It's okay to teach that he will see. Then they were saying he was the leader of the Confederate Army, but no one said that he was a traitor,
right? Because
he was a traitor against the Union. That's the way it should be taught. It is what it is,
right?
And thank goodness they changed the name of it now. They woke up and realized.
Right. I think there was a lot of petitions that went into that.
Yeah, because you got every black student in that school get money from the state government. If all the black students disappear from that school, you go stop getting money. So you know what? We might need to change the name of that school to keep the students so we can keep on teaching.
Right. Yeah. It's slow change happening, you know, but we're not too far out of, you know, we always talk about it. We're not that far out of slavery, you know, but there's a lot of changes that are happening. It's just you know, we have people that come into office and try to really I say slow down the change.
Yes.
You know, or come with their ideology of what some of the information that's being shared, what it may be doing to you know, making these assumptions or how other people may feel about it. You know, just say how you feel about it. But you don't assume everybody feel the same way that you feel about whatever's being taught. And in fact, you're not even in the school system, and most of your children may not be in the public school system. So, you know, it's those type of things that we have to be mindful of. That's why it's important, like we mentioned, to go into making sure that you go and vote, because we have to make sure that we have people in place that can help us, you know, fight against some of these laws, so that we don't have to deal with that, you know. But that's HB 1291. You can go and research that law yourself. You can go to, let me see, what's that website? myfloridahouse.gov. You can go to myfloridahouse.gov. You can put that in. You can read a little bit more. But I think a lot of the information that we shared today is information that you can kind of hold fast to, because we're coming straight from there, based off of what's being presented to us. So that's going into the next law here. All right, so the next law here is HB 21. This law was passed also July the 1st, 2021. Let me just get adjusted this. It said provides $20 million to compensate victims of abuse at the sheltered Arthur G. Dozier School for Boys in Marianna and another state reform school in Okeechobee County. I remember, make sure my mic is kind of close to me so it's heard. I remember coming up as a adolescent, right? Going to juvenile. And one of the nightmares for most attainees that will go to the juvenile detention center was going to Marianna, Dozier or something like that. I think it was like a level 6. Like if you got you had to be real bad. Like you got a level 6, they finna send you
the Marianna. Everybody know Dozier School, Marianna. That's what it meant,
right? And I remember I got as high as 3, and they were sending people that like at 4, 5, and I thank Yahweh I never got to that point of ever going there. But I know it used to be like I used to see the look on some of the young men's face, and as I think back, even some of these guys that I kind of knew, they grew up in the inner city. Some maybe was raised by their grandma. Maybe then the mother probably was on drugs. Daddy in jail somewhere. So you had a lot of these young black males that was being sent to Marianna.
Yep.
And this particular law, I just kind of want, and I'm gonna probably talk a little bit more about it, but just to get the audience adjusted to this and where I'm going at, this particular law is to provide compensation, and we're talking about reparations. I think it's a form of reparation that they're offering to those that was affected during that time, because there was a lot of sexual abuse that was going on, physical abuse that was going on. Now, keep in mind, this is supposed to be a reform institute for boys. Majority of the boys that were being sent there was black boys.
The majority. That's they weren't all, but the majority. And a large majority.
Right. So it affected black families, black homes. And I'm trying to think, because, and I don't want to put this out here, but because I know somebody real close to me right now that went there. And I didn't know like some of the horror stories behind it. And just remembering what he mentioned happened to him kind of goes back to this right here. And just kind of now looking into it, reading it, researching it, and saying like, wow, that's why, you see the look on some of their faces, which, pretty much translated to, me being a little fearful of, going like this. And these guys, they done been there, then I sent them back there again. And, and it's sad because the notion is it's a reform school.
Was no reform in most cases. See, because I had a friend, unfortunately I didn't go, but I had a friend close to me that went. He was going local, and then he got enough to where he must have hit that number you talked about, and he went. Thank God he made it back, but I could see the change. And that's one, it toughens you up, but he never want to go back there again.
Of course.
He was like, that's one place he never want to go. And see, now I can remember that.
And because even if let's say you slid up under, nothing happened to you. You seen it.
Yep, I heard it.
You heard it. So you already know something is going on. But you was very fortunate
Yes.
that it didn't happen to you. But just to give a little background.
Or to a degree.
To a degree. You're right. Because I mean, as a young person, you still a little green to certain things that's happening around you. You don't know when you're being verbally abused or physically abused. You might think it's something normal.
There's no. They're supposed to beat. When you in there, you ain't got no right. They're allowed to beat you like that, and you have no recourse.
Right. So in your head, you might think it's good, but in actuality, it's not.
No.
But just to give a little background, to understand the background of this legislation, it's essential to recognize the horror stories of these institutions, both the Dozier School for Boys and the Okeechobee School. And as we said, was reform schools that operated in Florida for decades. However, rather than providing rehabilitation, these schools became notorious for widespread physical and sexual abuse of their young inmates. And except for years, survivors have advocated for justice and recognition of the trauma they endured. Their stories of abuse and neglect have spurred investigation, lawsuits, and public outcry. Now, this been going on since like the 70s?
I think they finally closed it in the late 70s.
Yeah, so it's been going on for quite a while.
Oh, it went on for, I want to say, it was from, that school was open from 1940 to 1975. Anywhere from 1940 to 1975. It was there for a long time. And it got really bad.
Yeah.
Like late 60s, 70s. See, that just to get an audience, if you're not familiar, not just with the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, and the verbal abuse. And here's the side of the law where it's really not going to help some. See, there were boys that went missing who were in custody. And they just never found them. They said that they escaped. The thing was their escape. And then after years later, it's like they found a lot of these bodies. They found in shallow grave, they found these bones of these boys buried out. So it's like they weren't escaping. They were being killed.
Right.
And then they would go missing, and then you saying that they escaped. So it was a lot going on there.
Wow. But it's ways. One of the things that said, if you was a victim, which I ain't understand this here, and I guess you have to prove that you was a victim. But this my only concern with that is, how do you prove that after so many years?
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be positive. Finally, I think they did. Now, just so you know, on this one, they all voted unanimously to approve it. Both sides. There was not one nay vote. Everybody voted to approve this. So here's the downside. You got until December of 2024. So you got only until the end of this year to file.
Wow.
But it seems as if you can get a notarized statement of your abuse and submit it. But anyone who was at that Dozier School for Boys or Okeechobee, if you were there between 1940 and 1975, you need to be talking to your attorney right now. And you need to be putting in your claim to get a piece of that $20 million that you're owed. Because even if you were in the cell next to where you saw your cellmate go, that's abuse. When they would hear them getting dragged out, screaming. Sometimes they would come back, other times they wouldn't. See, so if you had a child that went missing, it's like they say you got to be a living person. So you can't be it's like you can't be an heir. Like if your child was there and went missing and they found their bones, this not gonna cover them. This only cover those that's living, that survived it. So it's your duty and right to go there and put in your claim. And if you know it, yes, you need to state the ones that you saw being dragged out, being raped, being beaten, and it happened. And don't be afraid to admit that it happened to you, because you should get some compensation, because that's not reform. That was abuse.
Right. That's a true horror story there. And I would assume, like, because they said Okeechobee and Dozier, like, I don't know if it was most of the people from Central Florida or North Florida that went to Mariana, and some of the ones from down south went to Okeechobee. I don't know how that panned out. But yeah, that's, we, and what the minister said, you just want to be mindful of that, because I didn't know that, like, you had until December of this year to make a claim. And is there on a website or something that they can probably go to?
It did have it listed.
Because they said within this law, it kind of outlines a process for compensating survivors of abuse at the Dozier School in Okeechobee. Here are some of the key provisions. They talk about the eligibility. It says specifies criteria for determining who is eligible to receive compensation. This typically includes survivors who can prove they were subjected to abuse at these institutions. And compensation amount, it says establish the amount of compensation to be awarded to eligible claimants. The bill likely outlines a specific formula, a range of amounts based on factors such as the severity of abuse, length of time at the institution, and other relevant circumstances. And it says filing claims, provides instructions on how and where to file claims for compensation. It includes deadlines for submitting claims and required documentation. And it's a claim process. It outlines the process for evaluating claims, including the role of a designated claims administrator or board. Now, this is all within this law. And this what was passed within this law. And it said dispute resolution specifies procedures for resolving disputes related to eligibility or amount of compensation awarded. And then
you just have to be able to get it in. And I had it pulled up, and we was looking at the other laws, and now I'm trying to find it. But it kind of specified where to go to file for it. And it's non-recurring funds. That means after this cycle is over, it's not going to be there. So you need to put your claim in now so you can be a part of getting whatever. But I'm going to try to find it before. But it was not a lot of, it was requirements. But what I read was it had to be, you could have a notarized statement of your abuse and you could submit it. I would suggest you get an attorney to submit it for you, to make sure you go into the right committee and you get it date stamped to make sure that you're in, because once your claim is in, then you'll be able to get approved for your compensation. But if you wait past that time, it's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm. But just to make note, I know we kind of talked about this in the beginning, but Black families was disproportionately affected by the abuse of the Dozier School for Boys and Okeechobee School. It mentions these schools, these institutions primarily house Black children, and the systemic racism of the time led to their overrepresentation in these facilities. So consequently, the families primarily impacted by HB 21 which provides compensation for victims of these schools are Black families. Kind of alluded to this a little earlier. It's important to acknowledge the historical and systematic injustice that led to the disproportionate impact on Black communities. So we just have to think about when you think about dealing again with in the Jim Crow era, where segregation and discrimination created a system that was where Black youth were more likely to be seen as delinquent or criminals. It kind of set that stage for that. So just be mindful, like, when we're talking about HB 21, it kind of goes back to the injustices that we dealt with as a people, coming up out of slavery and kind of dealing in the Jim Crow era that is, and a lot of Black families suffered from that, because a lot of the Black males, youth went to these quote reform schools, but was really set up for really punishing them in a dehumanized way.
Yeah, and it's definitely right on their website, and it's basically says an application for complication under this section must be made by a living person who is confined to the Dozier School for Boys or Okeechobee School between 1940 and 1975. The personal representative or estate of a decedent may not file an application. So if they're not living, they cannot file it. It said it must be on a form approved by the department, and basically has to include the applicant's name, their date of birth, their mailing address, phone number, and if available, an electronic mail address, the name of the school in which the applicant was confined, and the approximate dates of the applicant's confinement. It says reasonable proof submitted as attachments establishing that applicant was both confined. It said proof may include school records submitted with a notarized certificate of authenticity signed by the records of the custodian of a certified court of records, which is that you were convicted there. But it says a victim of mental, physical, or sexual abuse perpetrated by the school personnel during the applicant's confinement, which proof may include a notarized statement signed by the applicant attesting to the abuse the applicant suffered. I will go right to their website, and you need to take their exact language and give it to them in that language.
Right.
Please get you an attorney, but use their language because they're telling you what they're going to be looking for you to get compensation. So it's a statement from the applicants acknowledging that by accepting compensation under this section, the applicant waives any right to further compensation related to the applicant's confinement at a Dozier School for Boys.
What website it is?
It's on the Florida House, and I just clicked on the under the bill text, and it's this from the Florida Senate, but it's right on the website on the myfloridahouse.gov. And if you put it in that HB 21, or if you do a Google search for HB 21, it'll pop up and click on it, and the links are right there to see the information. But like I say, with our disclaimer, call your local attorney and have them help you, because it don't seem like it's a difficult process, but you want to make sure you get it done fast and expedient, because as of December, this is non-recurring funds. That means if they don't spend it, the money goes back into the general fund and they're not going to be disseminated.
Right. Okay, well, I put it up. That's myfloridahouse.gov. And you can do a search from there. Just make sure you just kind of put that in, My Florida House.
But at least that's $20 million.
Right. They I mean, it's sad that it took so long. But they're attempting to do something. It's sad for some of the victims that may not be alive. To take advantage of that. Their families, right. To be able to take advantage of that,
But I would hope everyone who's under the sound of our voice, if you were there or you know someone who's there, let them know that they got access to this, because it will be horrific for only a few to apply, and all the money don't get spent. Now they can wash their hands and say, "Oh, well, we tried to do the right thing. We did the right thing, but nobody applied for it. So now they don't have to touch it anymore."
Right. And see, that's where
that's why they passed the law. And why isn't anyone talking about this?
Right.
Why isn't this on the news media?
Right.
Why are they not telling, if you had abuse and you in the and you in Mariana in that boy's home, and those, we know what Mariana meant. That's Dozier School.
Right.
You need to be applying for some compensation.
Right. Right. Yeah, they're not talking about that. You don't hear that in the mainstream media right now, and it should be. You know, anything that affect us locally. That's why we try to make sure that we highlight some of this stuff, so that we can bring it to our community, so that we are conscious of it. That's very important to have that type of information and knowledge to be able to take advantage of some, especially if you've been harmed in any type of way. You want to make sure that you take the necessary steps in order to remedy anything that you may have experienced. And money don't fix it. No, because that's a mental thing that can stay with you the rest of your life. But don't overlook the fact that it's available. See, now you have some money that you can afford to go get you the help that you need. That's true. All right, so we are at 20 after, and we need to go to a quick commercial break, Minister. We may have to convert. We'll go to a quick commercial break, and we will be back.
Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm an enrolled agent with Scott & Associates accounting firm. As you can see, we work diligently for our clients, making sure that all of their tax and accounting needs are met. Come take a walk with me.
At Scott & Associates, we pride ourselves in providing exceptional service to our clients. We firmly stand behind all of the work that we do. However, we have also put measures in place to protect our clients should something ever go wrong.
To schedule a tax appointment for your business or personal need, text or call us today at 321-754-1360. And remember, you can always count on Scott.
Because Scott & Associates always treats me like family, I refer my family to them. So when preparing for my taxes and I know exactly what to bring in coming in, it makes the process so much easier. Anyone should hire Scott & Associates because they are professional, respectful, and very knowledgeable. And with all of my heart, I can always count on them.
All right, welcome back. We got about 8 minutes. So what we'll do, we want to go to breaking news because we had one more law that we needed to kind of just speak on. This one, I don't think we'll get that deep into it, but this one is the Florida Senate Bill 7002. And it's part of a broader initiative to streamline and modernize administrative processes in the state's education system. The bill is associated with a school deregulation effort aiming to reduce bureaucratic requirements and increase efficiency within school districts. Now, I don't know how deep you kind of got into this law. It seemed like it just kind of centered around, like it mentioned, modernize in some things and how information is being dispersed to the public. Basically, what you get from this here?
Yeah, and I'm gonna give them a thumbs up on this one, because because it's actually and it's I hate to say it, but normally when you look at when there's unanimous approval and there are no nays, and you take the partisanship out, it's amazing that they can actually go there and get some work done, because what it does, it kind of removes some of the red tape, and they sending it kind of back to the school boards and the districts to make it easier to get things done. Right. Like, yes, parents need to be notified about certain things. About compensation. For example, they put stuff in there, just penalties, like you driving, when you see the school buses coming down the road, you're supposed to stop. But it's like, if you run those, you get fines for running those. And what they gonna take, for example, those type fines would be directed directly into the school system to hire more bus drivers. Okay. It's like they doing things that make sense. Yeah. They was looking at pay and basing compensation based on, like, when we got this critical need of, if it was math teachers or if it was, third grade teachers, that need to be addressed. So you go into the Department of Education and y'all need to figure out, how can we address this? And if that means more compensation, because it might not be directly in this bill, and it might be because it's actually going to be coming up with ways of actually compensating teachers with more money, which teachers definitely need to be compensated. Yeah. So this is one that actually would make it a little easier for the schools to get things done without going through a whole lot of, like, if you got to do a financial record for this, you got to pull a financial record. If it's not necessary to do all of that, then just let them get the stuff that they need so they can go to work and teach the students.
Right. Because it does say primary objective is to reduce administrative burdens and allow more flexibility for local school districts, and to your point, I guess, to be able to operate on a level without all this
oversight.
Yeah.
Like in some cases,
through credit.
You want
through credit.
You're spending the public's money. So you want it to be accountable. But those who are being accountable and accountants, let them count the money. But you shouldn't have teachers and administrators creating fancy budgetary things and you're taking away from them educating.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to say, do away with a lot of this bureaucracy.
Yes.
But that's something that, this particular bill is trying to get away from. And then at the same time, trying to, like what you mentioned, trying to open the doors for more income, taking away, really trying to modernize what's being done, and bring it more into a digital format. So that way, a lot of the money that they're spending that's going towards, news publications and stuff like that, they're bringing it now, I guess, to the website to try to reduce the cost of that, to try to bring more funds in, like what you mentioned, to bring more funds in to do other things that need to be done.
For educating. Like, even one part I thought was great. It's like, if you suspending the student, it's like, I think you got to have there's in writing, you got to communicate it digitally or by letter. But it's like, so you're not just arbitrarily doing things. But if you're going to do things in discipline, parents need to be made aware of it, but make it a streamlined method of doing so. Because you do want accountability, but you don't want it to be to the point of you got people pulling their hair out.
Right. All right. So they said the support behind it. Proponents argue that the change will save money for school districts by reducing advertising costs in newspaper, like I was mentioning. It also aligns with the growing trend of accessing information online, potentially reaching a broader audience more efficiently. Now, concerns of or critics of the bill may argue that the switch away from print publication could reduce transparency, particularly for individuals who may not have easy access to the internet or are less familiar with online platforms. There is also concerns about the potential reduction in public awareness and engagement if traditional channels are minimized. So I guess when I think about that, I'm thinking about maybe senior citizen. Possibly. Because for the most part, we're in the information age. Yeah. Most people should have access to some type of, public. I mean, not public, but digital, platform. Yes. And if they don't, it's very minimal.
It's a small amount.
Yeah, that may not. So I don't see how that could be
because you don't want to use the whole large budget for a very small amount of the people. Mm-hmm. For those who need it, make that accessible. But it's like, why print 1 million copies of something that you only needed 200?
Right.
Because digitally, you can have as many as you want.
Right.
And that will be a waste, because those who need something in writing, however they're getting it, you should make sure. But it's like that's going to be a financial impact.
Right. Yes, sir. It's that impact on school districts. By streamlining the process of publicizing budget information, the bill may enable school districts to allocate resources more efficiently. However, it places a greater emphasis on ensuring that digital platforms are accessible and that the public is adequately informed about how to access this information. So it seems like this will, they have something in place that will make sure that people can access this information in a more efficient way. So I give it a thumbs up as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm all about safety. Like they put some language about around the school buses. It's gonna say either stop when red lights flash or do not pass when red lights flash. Cameras enforced. A graphic depiction of a camera, and then civil penalties will be assessed and collected for violation. If you ride by the school bus and that sign is down, I want them to catch you. And if they give you a $400 ticket, that means next time you see that big yellow school bus, stop.
Right.
That's what that means.
Right.
Stop. Because it could be your child running to or trying to get on that bus. I think those kind of penalties are good. But then the money wouldn't just go into the general fund. It's going to go supposed to go directly toward hiring more bus drivers.
Well, that's awesome. That's good. And I see too many people, maybe they don't have children. I remember being in Pine Hills, and I remember like cars that's just flying. It's like, if somebody don't give him $1,000 ticket out, like, bro, you can be running right into.
You don't see the bus.
Yeah.
And it's like, you stop. They will go around. You will go around a stopped car. Do you not see the school bus?
Right.
And it's like, my thought, like now they got barriers and it's petitions and you're on the opposite side one way, you don't have to. But if you're in doubt, stop.
Stop anyway. Yeah.
It's only going to be a few seconds stop, because when you go running past that bus, you can't see what's coming on the backside of it. And that's somebody's child.
That's a very tragic moment.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Minister. I think we ran into time and everything.
So I do give a thumbs up on that one. That proves they can do what's right.
Right.
When they want to do what's right.
Right. I guess you got to put the right people in, because remember we dealing with different committees. You have different, that's why I think a lot of times we favor the Democratic Party, because a lot of times some of those issues that center around maybe our children at certain point, the Democrats some of them kind of make up that. It's not to say the Republicans don't.
Yeah.
But it's that when you kind of looking at what's been done, and looking at the laws that are passed, sometimes it can be a balance of both sides. But I can see where sometimes people can say like, well, I favor this party here because XYZ, and we all have our opinions why we do what we do. But that comes to the end of our show. Minister, I give you the first option to sign off.
I'll just say, hey, the laws are changing. Make sure you be aware and you change with them from a positive note. Something we said in this show, all politics are local. Your local representatives represent you. And trust me, I'm a witness. The local ones, they really do want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Because they want to get back in office.
Mm-hmm.
And when they respond to you, they know you support them. And when they don't respond to you, they know you won't support them. So if they want your vote, it's like, hey, I keep it real basic. If they not picking up the trash in front of my house, you're going to hear from me.
Right.
I'm going to call your office. I'm going to leave my name. I'm going to leave my phone number. And I expect you to call me. I expect you to email me back. If you don't, when it's time to vote, please don't expect me to support you.
Right.
Because I don't see you in my community. When the roads in my neighborhood getting potholes, I want them fixed. And when you call, trust me, they will fix them. If they're not, you need to be, and I don't care what party they're in. If they're fixing them, you need to support them. If they're not, next time, kick them out.
Right. Right. I'm going to send you a postcard right back to you when you send it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Nope.
All right. Well, I just leave us with this one quote. It's from Martin Luther King. It said, "The time is always right to do what is right." So, America, we always have to do what's right. We still want our reparations.
The 40 acres. I haven't forgot about the 40 acres. Y'all may have 40 acres.
Right.
Where's my 40 acres?
I'm telling you, hey, the time is always right to do right. All right, I'll say from the host, peace and prosperity, and from Live Talk, we are out.
Thank you for watching Live Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Talk Orlando. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit on the notification button so that you can see more videos like this. You want to join the show? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. You can also follow the host on Facebook and Instagram at Arthur Jeremiah. And visit the website, thenoystore.com, to pick up your copy of The Spiritual Significance of a Name.